All right, welcome here inside the den for Sound of Sports. Mike Davis here. I am joined right now by an MLB star, a legend, 15 seasons in the MLB. I grew up rooting for him with the Philadelphia Phillies. It's the great Jayson Werth. He's also a horse owner and breeder. We're going to be learning about Icon Racing 2-8 racing as well. But Jayson, let's start with this. I was reading this about you. Tell me if I'm wrong on this. You started off actually as a catcher and then moved to outfield. I'm curious what you think watching the playoffs right now, Cal Raleigh, all that stuff. Tell me a little bit about how unique and special this guy's season and playoffs have been. The big dumper. I mean, everybody wants to talk about it.
I mean, look, it's it's one of those things, demanding position. Not to me, guys have been in this situation. I mean, it's I caught in the minor leagues, and the day they asked me to move the outfield, I said yes before they even got the position out of their mouth. It's like it's not an easy job. What he's doing is incredible. There's offensive catchers out there, right? There's guys that are known for their offense, but this is on another level. And most of the time, the offense is limited because it's such a demanding position. You're always dinged up. You're always hurt. So what he's doing is just super special. And then is it MVP worthy? That's the next conversation, right? Between him and Judge. So we'll see which way they go. If I had to say who has the nod right now, I would say it's Judge. But I mean, you never know how they're gonna vote, and there's more. Judge couldn't even throw the ball at the end of the year. He was DHing a lot, so there's. It'll be interesting to see who gets the MVP, but not to take anything away from either one of them.
Yeah, we got to give a shout out to Ian Ritchie, who's your partner in Icon Racing. He's a big Mariners fan, so I know he's rooting for them. I'm curious, tell us, because you were such an athletic outfielder, you had a great arm, you were throwing people out, great hitter as well. I'm just curious about his body type, like the big, like you're watching this guy on the screen. I mean, it's obvious why they call him the big dumper. The guy is built in an interesting way. Would you say the best offensive catcher you've ever seen? We used to, when you were playing, it was the Joe Mauer types. It was a different type of thing. Is he the best offensive catcher you've seen? And how unique is his build?
Yeah, I mean, it takes a very unique body type to be a catcher, right? Typically, it's the Latin guys have kind of taken over the position with the kind of the shorter, squattier, blockier builds. But he's a pretty good big guy, right? I don't know his actual dimensions, but he doesn't fit the short and squatty stereotype for sure. Is he the best offensive catcher? He's definitely had the best season. We'll see how he does over the long haul, and if he can stay healthy. But Joe Mauer, Pudge, those guys kind of come to mind.
Yeah.
But there's not many of these guys, right? So what he's doing is super unique. Buster Posey is probably the next guy that I could that I played against that was able to catch all those games and produce. But Buster didn't. He wasn't hitting 50, 60 homers either. So. I don't know. It's just it's a unique situation, and probably why they're where they are in the season. That stuff's contagious. They got another guy on their team that's got 50 some homers too. So that's not normal. So it's pretty it's a unique situation for sure.
Yeah, and you're a perfect guy to talk to during this time of year because, I mean, October baseball, it's the best. I mean, World Series champion, you had a tremendous World Series with the Phillies. Your NLDS, I remember that was a great series you had against Milwaukee, legendary stuff. What is your if you had to tell baseball fans right now, the capturing that special that juice during the postseason, what is required for a team when you're watching the playoffs? Can you see something because you can just tell the closeness or the things that are gelling from offense to pitching? What are the takeaways that you think a team needs? Because in 2009, you guys didn't make it happen against the Yankees, but 2008, there was something special about that team. So what are your takeaways you've learned being a World Series champion?
So the 2008 team had the magic stuff, right? We had the pixie dust. The 2009 team had it as well, but we just ran into a buzzsaw with the Yankees. That was that team with all the legends on it. It almost felt like we were playing a bunch of ghosts out there. It didn't really matter what we did, we weren't going to win. So I look at teams that look like they have the chemistry, look like they're gelling. And I think it takes to win it all. You got to be of special character and a special mindset. You got to have the it factor. The other team that comes to mind for me was the 2019 Nationals. I played on all those good national teams. We just couldn't get over the hump. But the 19 team, spending a little time with them, they had that little extra it factor, that thing that comes together at the end of the season where you kind of build this tidal wave, and you can't be stopped. So we'll see who has the right stuff. But to get to this point, at this point in the season, you've had to do a lot of things right. You had to get through August, the month of hate. Every team either falls apart in August or makes it through. So it's this time of year where you turn dreams into reality. It's the time of year I really tune in and start watching all the games.
Yeah, a couple last questions on that before we get to racing. So I'm curious, I was reading when you went to the Nationals. Now Bryce, of course, is with the Phils, but here in Las Vegas, I mean, Bryce Harper is a Vegas guy through and through. I was reading that you were really his mentor. He really took to you when you were together on the Nationals. Tell me a little bit about what that was like.
Yeah, so we got Bryce as a 19-year-old kid. He's running around sometimes it felt like his head was totally chopped off. Definitely his hair was on fire. The run until you tag it mentality. But he was a tough rookie first few years with Bryce. He get kicked out of a lot of games, and he grew up. We kind of watched him grow up, and right before us, and now you see him. He's the salty vet of the Phillies, and didn't quite have the year this year, but MVP a few years ago. They've been to the World Series. They you know Bryce is one of those guys that I think from the time he was really young, he's the type of guy that was looking to be a Hall of Famer. He's looking to have a statue built of him out front of the stadium. So he's still got some time left in Philadelphia, but winning's tough, and it really is. And it takes a team. It's not one guy can't do it all. So we'll see if they get it together again next year. You got Trey over there as well. I play with Trey Washington. Trey's one of the best players I ever played with. But those guys are getting old, so I say that, and I still see them as kids, but they're getting into the middle late years of their careers, and it's time for them to get it done.
Yeah, you were a true icon. It was always fun rooting for you. When you're watching the game and the pitcher, versus the Dodgers goes home rather than throwing the first, I mean, what was going through your mind with that?
Just heartbreak and heartache. You feel for that guy. You can see, everybody around Muto, everybody in their minds, if not on the field, are screaming, first, first, first.
He had
you
the
got
time to
time.
get situated, right? I mean, he had the time. It's crazy.
But in that situation, I mean, if you're in that situation, it's total and pure panic.
But
So
you had so many I mean, you played in big moments. Of course, we know with the Nationals, you had the 36 homers, the 99 RBI season, but you had big moments for the Phillies in those postseasons. You had I
yeah.
think you and Chase went back to back with homer, or you got on base. Chase hit a homer to kick off that World Series. You had that big play. You threw someone out at home against the Brewers. So I mean, how were you able to handle that pressure in those big moments? I mean, you either have it or you don't.
Yeah, 100%. And your heart breaks for those situations, those people like that. But I mean, I always said the bigger the game, the calmer you get. But that was after thousands of games. Some of these guys, they don't have the experience yet. The baseball's kind of changed in how they view some of these positions, especially pitchers, where they bring up the young kids that don't have the experience. Yeah, they got lightning bolts for arms, but they're not the veteran guy that's been in it as cool as a cucumber out there either. So there's a little give and take with that. The game has changed in that regard. Not saying that's what happened here, but you always see some of those guys that have been out there. They've done it. The older guys, they're just they're so cool and calm and collective, and that's what it takes to win championships.
It's crazy. So here's the funny thing with you in racing. So, of course, everybody knows Jayson Werth, the MLB star, 15 seasons, playing all over. I think when you even retired, you had the fifth highest stolen base percentage in
Percentage, yep.
history, which is pretty crazy. But all of a sudden, what happens is on social media, we start seeing from the Belmont Stakes, your horse, Dornoch, wins the Belmont Stakes, and everybody's on social media like, is that Jayson Werth? What? Tell me what, because a lot has happened since you played. Of course, I think you even were an organic farmer in Illinois for a little bit. I know you're a Springfield kid, but what happened? I bet people in your life, former players, were like, wait, you're involved with like, tell
Yeah.
me what happened when you won and how crazy that was.
It was crazy. So I started playing golf with some guys after I retired down in Florida that owned some Florida breds, and I was kind of like, this is cool. Like, hey, how do you do this? And that's the problem with horse racing is how do you get in, right? The barriers to entry are insane. So I kind of got in. I lucked in with some guys that had been doing it, kind of showed me the ropes a little bit. Went ahead and started kind of doing my own things, and I got into a colt with a trainer, Danny Gargan, named Dornoch, and that was my first colt I got into. So it was one of those things where I was like playing the Philly game. It's a little bit easier game to play, at the lower levels with the Phillies. So they have residual value at the end. I mean, it's a sport of kings, right? So you're kind of you get pulled into everybody really in the world that plays that game. So I bought one colt. His name was Dornoch, and he ran 10th in the Derby, and he won the Belmont, and that was at the first try. So the videos that they show the America's Best Racing, you can see the excitement, and it was like, it was like just good old fashioned fun, right? It was honest, and we had, I don't want to say we had no business being there, but we were there nonetheless. And at the biggest stage, at the biggest event, our first try, we win the Belmont, and it was like one of those things where I'm like, man, this is amazing. How do we do this? How do we keep doing this? Obviously, we don't have the budget of some of these people that have, big stables and big pockets. So we were like, all right, how do we share this? How do we create something to stay in it and show and bring a bunch of new people into the sport? Because I was like, I don't think anybody knows how cool the sport is, right? It's
Well,
like,
how the rush you got from that? I'm curious. Like the rush you got from Dornick winning, how does that compare to winning a World Series? Like, is it? It's. I bet it's pretty close, actually.
yeah, it's right. It's right there. I said winning the World Series of Philly was one. The parade would be two, and the Belmont would be a short third. At this point in my life, I think coming back and winning a Derby would surpass everything. So it is an amazing sport. You kind of get into it. The way we've set up Icon Racing is kind of a fund. Everybody gets a piece of all the horses in the fund. And I tell people, I own 10% of Dornoch, and somebody sent me this thing, and somebody was was mouthing me on Twitter or something. It was like, this dude, owns 10% of Dornoch, acts like he owns 100%. And I was like, yeah, like that's the whole point. 10% of
Right.
the bills, 10% of the cost, 10% of everything, but 100% of the fun. That's kind of the
Right,
tagline for
because
Icon.
how many people actually want to foot the bill for training a horse, feeding I mean, it's a lot of
No,
associated costs. So,
you might, and most people might be able to buy one horse or two horses or three horses, but by themselves, there's 18,000 foals a year that could run in the Kentucky Derby. I mean, your chances are slim to none anyway. So it's entertainment. It's like it's like buying a membership to your country club you like. It's like buying season tickets. If you look at it as entertainment, as something fun to do, it becomes a little bit more easy to chew on. If it's something, I tell these people, like, what's the ROI? Well, the ROI on Dornoch was unbelievable, but he's a once in a lifetime horse. This is about doing things with the people you want to do them. I tell people, like, in sports, if you win a big game, you win it with your teammates. You get to grab them, hug them, punch them,
right.
and you have this moment on the field. You wave up to your family and friends, and then you go in the clubhouse, and maybe 15, 20 minutes later, you're all you're all champagned out and done with your interviews, you might get a grab onto your loved ones and embrace them and have that moment. But it's kind of lost, right? You already had it. In horse racing, you go with your wives, your kids, your buddies, your parents, your mom, your dad, and you get to do it with the people you want to do it. And win or lose, like you get to grab those people, before the race, during the race, after the race, and do it with the people you want. And that's what's different about horse racing is you get to choose who you do it with, and it's an experience like none other. And really, it is all about who you do it with. And in Icon Racing, we it's kind of like a big family. We have a lot of fun, and win or lose, we're there at big weekends to have a good time.
Yeah, you got to go check out Icon Racing, a great website. You can see everybody from the trainer who's part of the team, and it's a great way. You can fill out a request form and just get more information about how you can get a piece of this great excitement. And it's a lot like, listen, when you were playing in the MLB, NBA, NFL, MLB, these big leagues, NHL, they didn't have the fluidity with sports betting like they do now. Now, every game you watch, what is sports gambling? What is fantasy sports? It's about having invested interest in these, teams and outcomes more so than just being a fan like me being from Cherry Hill. I'm a Philadelphia Phillies fan because of my father, my grandfather. But now a lot of these things, you get that vested interest. So it's a similar thing to betting on Thursday Night Football, but now you can actually have a rooting interest in horse racing, which I think is a great concept.
And I think that's the way to grow the sport through ownership, whether it's fractional ownership or smaller ownerships. If you look at the Australian model, horse racing is the biggest sport in Australia, and everybody owns the horses, even
Really?
micro shares or whatever. So it's thriving over there, and I think that's the way to do it, because when you own the horse, it's different than just betting the horse. When you bet, you go to the track, you bet on the horses. You don't really know much about them coming in or going out. When you own the horses, you watch their workouts. You go see them in the barns. They become family and your pets. And then on race day, it's like that's why you put the suit and the tie on, because it's serious. Your horse is basically going to battle, and you're going to battle for you. So anybody that's ever played a sport, you know what it's like on game day. You wake up in the morning, you go to, you can't sleep the night before. You get up on a big day, you get dressed, you put your uniform on, you put your cleats on, you go out there, and then the horses are in the paddock, and the trainer and the jockey, and it's like, go team, like, come on guys, and then they get on the track, and you got all this like pre-race anxiety, you're coming out of your skin, and they leave the gate, and all of a sudden you're back on the field. It feels like a guy hit a double in the gap, and you're cheering somebody around for first. And the one thing that's so cool about horse racing now, you mentioned the gambling. Yes, this is like, we're like a nation of gambling. Everybody wants to bet on stuff. DraftKings, FanDuel, all these opportunities, all these bets. But horse racing is so unique because they have these big pools. You can get in these big pools and like hit the lotto every weekend with a $1 or $2 bet. But the thing that's cool about horse racing is nowadays, and I said this, I've said that horse racing is just now getting into its industrial revolution. Now with the phones and the iPads, anywhere you are, you can be like, excuse me, for 1 second, and you turn around and you watch a horse race on your phone for 2 minutes.
Right.
You can step into anywhere. You're being a meeting, be like, hold on, be right back. For 2 minutes, you can watch your horse race, you can freak out, go crazy, then you can just go back to what you're doing.
Right.
So that's super unique. Nowadays you don't have to grind out a 3-hour baseball game or football game for your $2 bet. You can do it in 2 minutes. It's amazing.
It's true. You could be at a wedding and do it. It's very simple, and it's true. It's probably the perfect time with social media. And I also got to give you credit, because I think the barrier to entry, that's another big thing about what you're doing with Icon Racing. It's not just the transparency and the ease to feel that camaraderie, because I think a lot of former athletes, they miss the locker room, right? So this is a way for you to recreate that magic and that camaraderie and being part of a team. But you also got to realize, I think most people grow up and they feel like it's a country club sport. It's like golf. It's like, it's only reserved for the wealthy, who is going to get involved in horse racing unless you have a lot of dough? But the cool thing about this is that it really gives you a taste to be a part of it. And I even think, to be frank, your look, like when you won the Belmont Stakes, there's something cool for outsiders like me to see, like, yeah, look at that. Like, Jayson Werth's got the beard, he's got the hair, and he's dressed up in the nice suit, raising the like, there's a counterculture punk rock quality that I
Yeah.
think you're bringing to the sport. Do you feel that?
A little bit, and I would say, like, our syndicate is still, accredited investors, so it is for people that have the liquidity to do something like this. But there are other syndicates out there, like My Racehorse, where you can buy $100 worth of a share of a horse and experience. So there are options out there for everybody. We are a little bit more suit and tie, but the horse racing industry needs to embrace the democratization of the sport so it can
Yeah.
continue to grow. People saying the sport of horse racing is dead. I disagree. I just think the sport of horse racing hasn't had its industrial revolution. I think that's upon us right now.
Yeah, I like that. You know all about that stuff being a farmer. I'm going to try to make a parallel here and tell me, because you got to teach me about horse racing, right? So I know about you as a baseball player, like you have the pedigree. I'm curious about Dornoch and the pedigree because it was a long shot, I feel. If we're looking, I don't know if it was Ruben Amaro Jr. scouting you or who was coming up with these things, but Ducky Schofield, Dick Schofield, even your mom, Kim, was like a track and field star. So if you're like a scout and you're thinking about, even I know your stepfather, Dennis Werth, you had the pedigree to really have the training, the mystique of being a professional ball player. It was all, you were able to flourish because not only of your pedigree, but because of your coaching and mentoring. So I would feel if I'm a scout like Ruben Amaro Jr. GM, this is a guy who probably has a lot of potential and can succeed. For Dornoch, what was the pedigree? Like I remember being from Philly, Smarty Jones was a big deal that this horse came out and won and stuff. Were you able to pinpoint things about Dornoch that were like, okay, his mom, Dornoch's mom was also a track, like, I don't know.
Yeah, well, it turned out, so Dornoch, when we bought him, he was one, so we didn't know anything about him, and I was so green, and I'm not the guy to go and scout the horses. We pay professionals for that. So, but Dornoch was unique because when we bought him, he was one. His older brother, Mage, full brother, the mom, Puka, has put out just monsters. So Mage won the Derby, his full brother. Dornoch wins the Belmont. Now, Baeza is the full brother, or at least a half brother, same mom. And he just won, what do you want? The Pennsylvania Derby, another grade one. So it's pretty unique to have a pedigree like that. But at the time, we didn't know. And I'll tell you a cool story. Me and Chase went over to Scotland to play golf.
Chase Utley.
Chase Utley. So we go play, one of my teammates in Philly, we won a World Series together. So we go play. We're like, let's go do some golf in Scotland. We never done it. And we played the courses, and we ended up at this town called Dornoch, and we played Royal Dornoch, which is one of the top public courses in the world. And it was super cool on like the north end of Scotland. It was like, foggy and just everything you can imagine. And we get done, and we come back home, and I called Danny Gargan, and I said, "Hey, Danny, how's the big horse doing?" He's like, "Doing good, man. He's training great." I was like, "Have we named him?" He's like, "Yeah." He's like, "Larry named him. I don't know. Call Larry." So I called Larry, partner with Dornoch, and I said, how did you name him? He's like, "Yeah, we named him." I was like, "What'd you name him?" "Dornoch." I was like, "Dornoch after the golf course?" He's like, "Yeah, after the town of Dornoch, Royal Dornoch. I love that place. My favorite course in the world." I was like, "Damn, I was just there. When did you name him?" He's like, "Oh, last week we put the name in." I was like, "What day?" He's like, "Wednesday." That Wednesday, me and Chase Elliott are playing Royal Dornoch in Dornoch, Scotland. And I mean, the horse goes on to win the Belmont. Now he's at Spendthrift Breeding. I mean, just the fact to get in on a horse, to have all those things line up, it was just incredible to experience it. So on the heels of those big wins with Dornoch, we started Icon Racing just to keep it going, because there's great stories within the sport. The horses are amazing. The people are amazing. There's so much to learn about it. People have no idea what goes into training a horse and all that. I would, to getting back to the pedigree question, I saw a lot of interesting parallels between me and Dornoch. And going into the Belmont, he was second to long shot. He ran 10th at the Derby. and I gave him this pep talk that Pat Gillett gave me
Wow. Yeah.
in 2007 before I got my chance to play finally on the August 1st. Shane Victorino and Michael Bourne went down on July 31st. They couldn't make a trade, and before the game, Pat Gillett called me in his office and he told me, I had some injuries and just couldn't really couldn't stay on the field. And he said, this is your last chance in baseball. This is it. I'm giving you your last chance. And as unfair as I felt it was kind of a wake up call, And I ended up going 4 for 4 that night, hitting 420 in August, never coming off the field for 10 years. But before the Belmont, I went into the barns and I talked to Dornoch and I said, this is your last chance in horse racing. This is it. He's tough dude. He bites. You can't get too close to him. So I grabbed onto his reins. And I said, "This is it, buddy. This is your last chance in horse racing." Like banged him on his nose, and he went out and won the Belmont. He won the Haskell, and now he's at Spendthrift breeding. So I saw a lot of parallels. He's a big dude. He's tough to train. He wasn't real coachable. He had some like small injuries going on. He wasn't totally healthy in the Derby, but still ran a gamey 10th, and he's just an awesome guy. So the parallels between me and him were pretty incredible, and now on the heels of that, we've got Icon Racing, and we called our first vintage Affirmed after the Triple Crown winning horse Affirmed. Second vintage this year that's still available. Still got some room is Big Brown. Dornoch's mom's dad, his grandsire's name is Big Brown. Big Brown won the Derby, won the Preakness, got beaten in Belmont, but it was a great horse. And I think our third round next year, we're going to call it Sierra Leone. Not necessarily starts with a C, but Sierra Leone, who was the horse that won the Derby last year, and it was the horse of the year. Awesome horse that we battled back and forth with.
Yeah.
And then if we get to our fourth vintage, we'll call it Dornoch.
I love it. I love it. So tell us real quick, if somebody's watching this and they're like, wow, I need Jayson Werth's energy. I want to be a teammate with Jayson Werth. How do we go about this? Tell us what to do.
So there's an interview process we go through. You got to be an accredited investor. The shares are $100,000, so it's not a cheap partnership, but it is pretty standard, I think, across the industry. The thing that differentiates us right now is this year again we're kind of doing this for the love of the sport. We're not marking up the horses. There's no fees. We invest alongside with you. So most syndicates, for good reason, they have fees involved and they have some markups. But every dollar you put in goes towards the horse ownership, management, feeding the horses, training the horses, getting them to traveling, shipping to the races. So we're unique in that manner. This year again, our goal is we raised 3.1 million last year. We'll raise over 4 million this year. Our goal was 4. We're past that already. But next year we might start taking a little bit of a fee because there is some money involved that goes into it out of pocket for us. But that's all part of the love of it right now. So to get in, go to iconracing.com. Check out our website. Me and Sean Kelly have a podcast, Off the Rail Podcast, where we talk about our horses and a little bit of sports. And we're getting ready to kind of blast off with that. Hold on, my automatic lights went off at the office here today. But we're looking for cool people, like fun people to be around. There's a little bit of vetting process that we go through. We want everybody to be on the same page and come out to the races, have fun, and really we're trying to bring new people into the sport, grow the sport. I think the way to grow the sport and to stay in it and be competitive as the highest level is to crowd fund and take a shot at winning big races. That's pretty much what everybody does outside of some of these blue blood barns that have been in forever. That Juddmonte and Godolphin and some of these places that actually have these barns and they've been doing this for 100 years. Like outside of that, it's tough. You gotta buy the horses when they're 1 or 2. You gotta train them up. You gotta build them up. And we've identified Whit Beckman as our trainer, up and coming trainer. We got a couple horses with Wesley Ward. But it's just a fun, exciting atmosphere. We're super transparent. No fees, like I mentioned. We take care of all the bills. One of my partners is a tax attorney, so he has the bandwidth to take care of all the bills and all the auditing. And really, we're investing alongside of you, and we're here to have a lot of fun.
I love it. Well, listen, I love the story. We all remember Pat Gillick. He was the mastermind behind those Marlins teams that won those World Series. And then, of course, with the Phils, and he gives you that big talk. And you were a guy, yeah. I mean, I think you were signing even 2 year, 10 mil, 2 year deal kind of guy. And then all of a sudden, you sign that 7 year, $126 million contract with the Nationals, and you can't get off the field for the next 10 years. So he gave you a great pep talk, just like you did to Dornoch, and we could all use that. And I believe Dornoch's, he speaks English. I can understand. He knows what you're saying. He can understand. Yeah. I bet.
He knew what I was saying. He didn't appreciate the talk like I didn't appreciate when I got it, but he knew the assignment.
I love it. All right. Well, listen, the great Jayson Werth. Thank you so much, man, for spending so much time with us. MLB star, legend, and now horse breeder and trainer. You go the Icon Racing, become a part of this. The democratization of racing, as you were saying. I love that. And we're getting just ready for the Industrial Revolution. It's going to be a lot of fun to be a part of horse racing in the future. So thanks so much. Go to iconracing.com. And Jayson, thanks so much for spending so much time.
Yeah, anytime. Thanks a lot. Appreciate it. Take care.